Let's hope this actually works. Hey Outrider, hey Core, how we doing? And please tell me if you can hear a damn thing / see a damn thing, because I have no idea at the moment. I'm hoping so. Awesome, this is good news. Welcome to a completely redecorated bare space with new desk, new equipment, new all sorts of random crap. So, we're going to see how we get on. Right, so let's make sure the machines are still working. And since we have early risers, right, let's see, can we get the machinery working? Let's find out. Ooh, yay, you worked. Right, let's jump into the crazy world of cards. Hey, Core, how you doing? Outrider, I hope you are well. Okay, Soviets, not what I was expecting. Probably not. Let's go fishing for some early game. Not that we have a lot of it. That's alright, we can take the bond hit if we need to clear down the inevitable column that didn't appear. Control? Keyword soup? Lord help me, one of my own decks? Sure. Ruh-roh. Huh. Damn. Who were you? Don't normally do this. I didn't recognize your name. How weird is the OC at the moment? Huh. Well, that would have been a miserable end to a good run for you then. Sorry about that, my friend. Oh, this is quite nice. Although I really do need to get some sound panels in here. Is it as echoey for you guys as it is for me, or is the mic filtering some of the echo out? Oh, Queens is too early. In fact, all of this is too early. All a bit piggy style. Okie dokie. Oh, okay. Sure. Oh, it's the Germany heavy variant. Okay. Hey, Vis Cognitivo and Twitzerino, and indeed, yes, giveaways are on and functional. Righto, let's see how heavy you want to go into this. Keep investing, you know you want to. That's a shame. No pin. Say goodbye. Where are you, Monty? I'll eat the one. Gonna need all the guards we can spam to survive long enough for this deck to become completely irrelevant. What, 6? Optimistically, so no, yeah, alright. Ooh, interesting. Right. Say goodbye. Observers 4, 6, not enough. So we dig in. Come on, Monty, where are you? Ooh, so close. 6 damage plus. That's a bit of an issue. Oh, Monty. One step too late. Maths? There we go. Yes, we are ensconced in an entirely well, not a new space, it's the same space, but reimagined. So it's testing time. It's very annoying first hand. It's extremely annoying mulligan. Though not atypical for this deck if you're pulling the code and attempting to use it. Sure. This could be interesting. More buffs, I assume. We'll just cycle. Yes, it's more buffs. Fair enough. Ding, 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 ding. I'll just drop Cromwell for the minute. Good grief. Hey, Stumpster. Nice to see you. If you haven't already, by the way, give Stumpster a follow. He's been doing some videos lately, and they're worth going along and hanging out with. Very chill human. Not quite only cards, but it's certainly cards related. I had good fun chatting during your views on the changes to draft. That was kind of fun to chill out for. Despite the fact that on subjects like that, I can't actually really interact much. Oh, hello, Colm. It was just interesting. I'm always interested to keep an eye on people's opinions. Well, I mean, I'm here. I'm vertical. The desk is vertical and nothing's fallen over. I have some art on my walls. It all sounds very echoey to me in here, but otherwise we're doing alright. Still got all of my office equipment to sort through. To figure out what's going where, but furniture is slowly but surely getting in, but I need to get some sound panels. First world problems. Do you just deny the draw and make you do this the hard way? I probably do. So I assume that you're hoping to land on tempo, so... Oh, okie dokie, sickle gone. Garrison? Not quite my speed, but I have a very specific tone in my workspaces. Hey, skyscraper. Just bounce everything. Yeah, I think we do. You can see all of my opinions on Draw Steel on YouTube. You can actually watch me running it. I am a huge fan, but I'm also a huge fan of Matt Colville and his team, because we're all of a similar age. Well, Matt and I are, and then everybody else not so much. But we have very similar viewpoints on gaming. So I was one of the first backers for Draw Steel and have been a patron since day one. I'm currently, as I say, running and uploading to YouTube the Delian Tomb adventure on behalf of the team at DM Hub, who are, by the way, lovely. Do we just see whether we're going to get some orders? Yeah, order fishing. It was really, really good. The bookshelf still exists. It's just been moved to a different place now that the place is done. There is the possibility that I'm going to need to be able to separate workspace and personal space in the near future. And that means that I had to rebalance things a bit. Plus, I have to accommodate the needs of my support team and all of the other tech that goes with it. So, it's just been a big old house reorganise. But yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out. I mean, if nothing else, just pick up the Delian Tomb starter set without even bothering with the core rulebooks and try it. As really worth the effort. The few things we could do here. You just bounce everything with Churchill, which would be very annoying. Could convert the tank, but that feels rather weak. Hampshire Regiment gives us some staying power and extra guard, which is, I think, the way that we're going to go. So we'll take this, and then we'll drop Middlesex. There we go. But yeah, Stumpster, I would definitely, if by giving any advice on it, just pick up the Delian Tomb and start there. Oh, fair enough. I mean, alternatively, just watch the Delian Tomb on my YouTube and share it with your friends, because I do some TTRPG stuff, just not a lot of it at the minute, although hopefully more of it in the future. It'll sort of depend on where things go. But, okie dokie, White Death time. Fair enough. Come on, deploy a couple more units and push forward, just so that I can make Churchill particularly irritating for you. Close enough. Do this. Do this. Slows it down a little bit. But yeah, and I was fortunate enough that I had a group of players on a wrapping campaign, so that when I was playtesting for Draw Steel, we were able to just keep going on into the same group that I'm running for now. With a razor, I assume you mean my head. I have a quad blade razor. Although if you mean my face and beard, I have a beard trimmer and a razor. The only thing I can't do anymore, which I used to do quite regularly, is use bladed razors. Oh, I don't like this. We're not loving this at all. I think we all... trade one of you out and slow it down. But yeah, I have like 3 different razors. Well, technically a beard trimmer and 2 razors. Which I'm not gonna lie, took some getting used to, because I'm used to just using, like just good old-fashioned bladed razors. Like, not the weird big plastic safety things, like the ones you strap and use a whetstone on. So you're just gone. Hey, Totsupan. We obviously are doing this. What does it get? Does it get +1, or does it just get +2 attack and shock? So the first one will be, yeah, we can still do this and this. We can just pin you. Hey, Leo. Yeah, it's going to be a bit random at the minute, but it's time to test the new setup, so... I'm finally back in my actual workspace. Oh, bless you. I don't know whether everyone's favourite. I think J King might have something to say about that. Yeah, like my old school razor was just a straight old fashioned Naked Razor with old school metal blades, and then I had to progress due to muscle tremors. The use of naked blades was not allowable, or at the very least unsafe. Which was very annoying. Ladders a thing at the moment, I am not gonna lie. You're just a dead body in the front line, which we're fine with. I think we can draw at your expense, which is always good. That's even better. Some healing. And we'll find out. Worlds is obviously, it'd be interesting to see what comes to Worlds, given the current decks on ladder at the moment and the very narrow meta at the minute, because people have become super focused. I think it'll be interesting to see what comes to Worlds. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I'm about as variant as you get at the minute on this list, which is doing okay. There's a couple of decent control lists you can play that will do all right, but for the majority of the case, you are in fact not wrong. There's a lot of very specific list use at the moment. Valid choice. I know a lot of the draft goblins would be with you on that. Okay, so we've got Frontier Force, which will get us Guard. But that's quite expensive. Is that the best way to go about this? Carpet bombing plus trading 2 isn't great. Frontier Force only gives us 1 guard, though. Better off. Yeah, sure, you can send it across. I'm always willing to have a look at different decks. This one's from Introduction. Not my work. So, need to remove you. And you. And you. Still dead, yeah. Mathematically, not loving my chances. Nice tanking. Hey, cool, how you doing? By the way, folks, make sure you... Well, 30 minutes is a long time, considering this might be quite a short stream. I'm really just seeing how the new setup goes. Make sure to... If you're still building a collection, get yourselves in. I've got a few packs to give away. Right, let's see what this list consists of. Is this the correct list? Monty, Middlesex, Home Guard. There we go. I can assure you it's never rigged, it just sometimes feels like it. Oh, I've played into this. Or at least variants thereof. It's an interesting idea. I'm not massively of the opinion that it's actually strong enough at the minute, because this relies on slowing your opponent down. My biggest issue with this list is that it's trying to slow your opponent down and then leverage value, which is kind of low rent at the moment, unfortunately, because you're... Yeah, You can slow your opponent down, but unfortunately there's still a couple of decks out there that if they just find their pieces, they don't need enough that denial's effective. It's not far off the list. It's not far off the logic. It's a completely different list, obviously, but the same idea behind the list I'm playing at the moment, which has been doing all right, is to just delay out, but that's interdictions. A little bit of ingenious development of using garrison and guard and lots of board denial. No, I imagine not. You can just drop the routed troops and they're just doing nothing because they're just going to end up being ineffective. There's definitely some good tools. I'm not sold on what 7TP is actually bringing. I suppose if units are surviving combat, if your guards are surviving, but I'd be a little bit concerned about overdraw against aggro. But how much aggro are you seeing at the minute? Oh, I can see the logic of the list. Double dowding, ultra, which, I mean, we all know why that's there at the moment. But, no, I imagine you could do alright on this. I think the issue... I don't like dowding as an auto-include at the moment. I think it's being overused really quite heavily. But I think it's being overused really quite heavily because of one deck. And I think that was kind of inevitable. It's very effective at disrupting. Yeah, Scepter's cleaner in the sense that it does... the one thing I would say, though, is Scepter... the one downside with Scepter is sometimes it hands your opponent a way to get into the next version of their necessary tool set, but there is no perfect fix against certain lists at the moment. I'll have to see when the next balance patch is. Dowding is one of those things that if you know how to time it, it will be effective. I've certainly been able to use it well, but it's got some limits going at the moment. National Fire Service does work against Bretagne, but the problem is that I don't like the fact that it's basically completely useless against everything else. It's great against Bretagne. The problem is if you tech purely for the group Bretagne deck, which is, by the way, totally understandable at the moment, you're doomed against everything else. Right, it's time to find out how much noise this makes. If this is louder than I expect it to be, you can accept my apologies. Splendid. It's meant to be, but I haven't tested it yet. Oh, right. No, it's just interesting. I think there's so much to figure out at the minute in a meta that isn't... I mean, it's not going to properly be a meta until we get out of Worlds next weekend. By the way, hopefully everyone's coming. It'd be interesting to see what the top players choose to bring, and whether they will stay with the perceived wisdom of ladder, or whether we'll actually see some interesting innovation deck-wise. Right, let's give someone some stuff. Oh, there you go. See, it can't possibly be rigged. I can't answer the question. More specifically, I can answer the question, but I'm not allowed to. Okay, you're being a bit slow. I'll have a look at you later. And with any luck, in a moment, in your Twitch DMs, you should have a code for a pack. So, yeah, so if you look in your Twitch DMs, there will be a message from me, which will contain a code that you can enter in-game. Have you made... No, because I've no desire to beat the life out of an incredibly expensive piece of technology that I was only able to get thanks to the help of other people. I'm not a big fan of hammering objects. Not quite my style. No, it'll just give you a pack. It might give you some gold, but I think these ones are just packs. Unfortunately, the one thing that we don't get to give away is diamonds. If you're looking for the bigger giveaways, you'd have to look to the much bigger streamers. And even that's probably only temporary at the minute. But, like, logically, you would expect that there would be a balance patch at some time around Christmas/New Year's, because there usually is. But I wouldn't expect it around the World Championships unless it comes out before, simply because people will be on holiday. Because the World Champs is really close to Christmas at the minute, which has been a challenge from the point of view of getting people together for the necessary bits of it. If I was guessing, I would probably be guessing very similarly. So it's to do with a bunch of different stuff. A lot of it is to do with when the media... So because 1939 have to use a media production company for a production as big as the World Championships for broadcast and all that stuff, because obviously they don't have in-house broadcasting teams. That would be ridiculously expensive. It will come down to how many other events are on, who's scheduled when can the players confirm that they're comfortable making, when are the casting team, whoever that might be, available, who's hosting the event, when are they available, and of course this year we're super doubled up because we're also dual streaming, because obviously we're also live on Bilibili with a Chinese crew, which is going to be really, really cool. It's the first time we've ever done it that I'm aware of, which is really, really funky. So there's another half to the caster team, because there's effectively two different casting teams now, which is really quite interesting and kind of fun. It's not dual language, it's dual broadcast. So there will be a team from the West. I can confirm that the event will be hosted by some British bloke. And a casting team. And then there will be a completely separate team in China hosting the Chinese side of the event. Broadcasting using the same, like, they'll be broadcasting live and at the same time using the same client footage, except in two different languages and in two different places. So Bilibili will have its own broadcast team. All being well and nothing weird happening, that's the current plan. If you check out Kards YouTube and the World Championship seeding draw, which I also hosted, we talk a little bit about how it's going to work. But yeah, I don't think the times have been confirmed yet, and I'm not going to say anything out loud in case I end up saying I'm not something supposed to. I know what time it is, because I have my call sheet, but I have no idea when they're actually going to release the actual times via 1939 social media yet. So the as far as I'm aware, currently the Western team will be 3 people, and I don't know how large the Chinese team is at the minute. How much social credit, I don't know. I can try and find out, but it's not something I'm aware of. This is going to get annoying. But we do have Cromwell next turn, so I think we're just going to heal. And then we'll play the pin game. I know it's north of 70% of the player base is in Asia, like Eastern Asia in general. But I don't know enough about Billy, but Leo almost certainly will. So that's the advantage of conversations. But yeah, I know it's north of 70% at the last time it was checked. So Cromwell, Monty. Yeah, Tencent is indeed one of the major, if not, I think currently the largest shareholder in the stake. So yeah, I could have moneyed first, but I'm doing like 3 things at once. So, I shared some information on this before. My win rate when streaming is roughly somewhere between 5 and 10% less good than when I'm not, which is why I've got all the respect in the world for. I think we just do this. It depends on the CCG and the IP. So there's a lot of interest, as I understand it, from 1939's own teams. There's a lot of positive interest in World War II themed stuff in general, and this particular style of game is quite popular. But at the same time, I think Gwent had a pretty solid Asian contingent. Shadowverse is, there we go, Core's ahead of me on that one. Shadowverse is vastly, it's like huge as an Asian game. Do we just Avray? Yeah, I think we just Avray. Push up a body. Yeah, I know Tessel didn't have. And Magic the Gathering's basically entirely international. So it very much depends on the individual game. Both theme and play style. Also, I know that generally speaking, games that are well implemented on a mobile platform will tend to do a lot better in Asia than games that are heavily dependent on fixed PCs. So we can proc the guard, which just makes sense. Can do that. Do we just Dowding? Or do we deny? Oh, they're probably going to want to buff. But what are they going to play that's 4 cost or more? No, this is better. There's a weird difference in the way that the game's been approached. And yeah, there's definitely a much smaller contingent of Western competitive players. Yeah, the big one is the current qualifying system massively rewards heavy grinding. That was an enormous waste of your retreat. So Cromwell puts up a guard, which is useful. Which we kind of have to do. This heals. Seems likely, yeah. And we just do 5 to face, I think. I think if the qualifying system would have to be changed to rebalance it, as you say, on a global level, the qualifying system would have to be altered to be very differently ordered. Because at the moment, it really is all about whether you can... Right. Yep. Perfectly balanced. Well, I think it's also different because it depends. Like, Cards has got only one really competitive scene. And that competitive scene is done via one thing. Like, Magic the Gathering is, I think, always a yeah, there are definitely things that could be done to make the tournament scene better. I know I've been on record as saying that there are the way it is. Paper empty, you can't really compare paper competitive play and a digital game because you can't. The same rewarded play system implemented with a digital player base is just far too expensive. I do, yeah. So I occasionally talk to some of the people who organise it as well, and we get pastes to let us know that people can join in as well because the community organises their own tournaments. We've had a few that have been organised, but it's difficult because you've got to have enough interest for it to be worth being in it, and part of it is about support. And I think that's something that restructure and redevelopment in 1939 and Cards in General's community program is going to be a big part of, is figuring out how to actually I mean, what made it appealing for those of us who were in it at the beginning was that you could actually make a living doing it, because paper cards had physical value. Like judges and competitive players made the money that paid for their travel and event just by selling the cards they got as rewards for competing in the events. That's something you'll never get in a digital game, because cards don't have the same value, because they're not single entities. There's not a limited number of them out there. Like, I've sold Magic the Gathering cards for, in the past, well north of £100 a card. And also, Magic the Gathering had the advantage of being supported by a hugely successful business that could throw a ton of money at it. Right, let's change tempo and go over here. Which was also a big thing. Let's also kick off another giveaway while we're chatting. But yeah, a lot of it is... Yeah, I don't... Yu-Gi-Oh! And I never gelled. Like most games, I tried it. Yeah, be very careful. Having spent some time playing poker, I recommend only getting into that if you know how to manage your finances properly with a spreadsheet. and you're prepared to play an awful lot of poker games in a month. Yeah, I mean, Friday Night Magic in general, but also a big part of it also the fact that they pivoted when the competitive scene for classic constructed started to struggle, and some of the stronger competitors were drifting towards games like Flesh and Blood, which, by the way, if you want to get into a game that has a pretty solid competitive scene, is worth a look in a physical game. They pivoted to Commander as being their big product, and then they started. To a certain extent, this deck's got a degree of burn as a finish, but yeah, this is a very slow burn deck. Well, yes, I absolutely agree with you. I think part of the issue was that the focus on Commander, but of course Commander was very profitable for them because they realised they were getting other IPs, Doctor Who, D&D, different what, Stranger Things, whatever. You just find an IP, slap it on a Commander format, The Hobbit, and away you go. Was a big thing. I don't normally like doing this, but let's get you off the board. You're annoying. I like my deck. But yeah, a big part of it was the fact that Wizards went with money, or more specifically, I should say, having known some of the people at Wizards in the good old days of Magic the Gathering. The Hasbro executives in charge of the takeover wanted to go in the direction of a lot of money. And they figured out how to do it by just using a million different IPs that they could leverage. But that's because Wizards and Hasbro are very different entities. I have a lot to say on that subject. Surprising. Probably no one. No, we'll take the draw. Because it impacted. Yes, generally speaking, most executives will. There are exceptions, but not many of them. Generally speaking, most executives will indeed graduate in the direction of cash. I think, yeah, we can Praetor because we can then Kitty Hawk. I mean, in effect, that's kind of been an issue. Yeah, is the fact that it is their last kind of, after the debacle that was the burning ends of D&D, it became a massive problem for them. Because I'm not a competitive player, and if I am playing competitive, if I'm testing meta decks, I do it when I can access like spreadsheets and a bunch of record keeping. Like, most of my meta deck work, as it were, is done specifically around the idea of internal testing. So I will play meta decks, but I'll only play meta decks when I can be focused enough and keeping track of the data to be able to give useful feedback on them. Or if I'm making a run, which I've done maybe 3 times in the time since I've played this game, Generally for streaming purposes, I just want to try different things. So I tend to steer away from meta decks in my general play because I enjoy kind of pushing the envelope and seeing what you can do off meta in design, or I enjoy trying out decks that are like a couple of the decks that I've tested that have then like turned up from streams have been handed to me by competitive players who've been testing different things, and sometimes they work out and turn out at events. But I'm not built for the grind anymore. That was me when I was traveling around the country playing Magic the Gathering in my youth. Nowadays, I'm much more about just chilling out, engaging with people. And at the moment, we have... Huh. That was interesting. Okay. Again, I'm streaming, watching chat, talking to multiple people, and watching another screen. So I make mistakes all the time. Oh, plus I also have, brain damage and memory issues. So, yeah, the one thing I will never ever do is say that people should watch me for perfect play. We have a lot of much more qualified streamers for that. I kind of chill out and hang around to entertain people more than anything else. Right, so... Okay. 2 cards in hand, 5 floating. Okay. Yeah, foiled plans was very predictable, but fine. Can I actually activate my unit, please, game? That is also true. J King has pretty much stopped streaming on a regular basis recently. Maudi obviously stepped away for the moment. I mean, I have the advantage that I've been doing this shit for a very long time, to put it bluntly. As the friend responsible for getting me into this game pointed out, he was remarkably unsurprised at how quickly I hit Field Marshal, considering that I've been playing card games on a competitive level for most of my life. No. No, I don't think so. There we go. I think it's... I don't know the answer to that, because I think we have an issue in the West with a lot of very loud negative voices, and I see very few loud positive voices. Not because they don't exist, they talk to me, but because they don't make a lot of noise. I think it's also noteworthy that the game is coming off again its 2 best years in history. Like, whether or not we like where it is as individual players, it's on its most successful run since it started, with player growth and player base growth, which is just something that sometimes we collectively could do with being aware of, is that when you're finally finding a successful direction of travel, the one thing you don't want to me is not step that direction. Recently, I do think balance is something that Could do with some work, not gonna lie. There have been more missteps than I'm a fan of lately. Let's see if we can bait out some more bodies. I assume so. Certainly at the moment, meta's not particularly settled into a good balance, but also a very expensive way to... I mean, I know you don't want me to heal, but... Yeah, although I think that is... Again, I think that's primarily driven by, and has been driven by, one very badly used deck combination, which, bluntly, we didn't see coming. No one that I know of, anyway, in IT went cooking to the extent that we came across. I certainly didn't come across I didn't even think of the Bretagne combo because I was too busy concentrating on a bunch of other things that were already on the testing list. But then if you've only got a small testing field, that is part of the price that you pay. Yeah, I mean, currently, because of the dominance of burn, I do think, I will say, oh God, I've got to be very careful about where I put myself on this. I can say with certainty that the group Bretagne deck is not performing anywhere close to as well as the Commandos decks were. That is a factually accurate statement, because if it was, it would have been emergency patched. Somebody tell me if that sounded appropriately diplomatic, because I have to be very careful how I put this. But I can say with absolute certainty that it's not performing to a problematic level. That's not to say it won't get changed, because it's clearly a very unfun, very dominant deck, but it's not got anything like the numbers that would require an emergency patch. Sometimes I wish you had guard. Yeah. Looking to see if I had a more efficient way of doing it, but I don't. I mean, I've said endlessly that there are certain things that I'd like changed from Legions or Intel. I'm in particular, actually, some of the stuff that bridges Legions and Shuffle. I'd hugely like to see a change to Sabe Regiment. And I'd like to see less Intel cards available. I feel slightly better about my choices. Yes. As has been heard endlessly, I am of the opinion that Sabe is definitely in need of a change. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's clear down. We can get a guard out of this. I mean, suppressions become powerful with the advent of... Do we just believe that we can outdistance this thing? Because no, it's going to do 3. The thing is, suppression is necessary at the moment because of the way that buffs have become prevalent. Like, there's a lot of effects and buffs that you need suppression to answer. But that's no different than any digital game that I've seen that doesn't have a reset button. And I think the important thing, I don't know whether Core would agree with me, but certainly observationally for me, please hold. And then we... Mustang? No, Mustang does 2. No, we just have to blow this up and eat it. I think the issue is that without a way to reset the power level on a meta, you don't have the advantage of a physical card game where you can just release a new set and everyone has to buy it. Because if they did that in cards, the community would riot. So you have to increase power every expansion, because otherwise there's no point getting the new cards. And the new cards are the only thing that generate you actual consistent revenue. And I think it's almost like a 5-year itch. In that cards is currently at that age where it's starting to show bloat, with the way that rules have changed and things have become power crept, to put it. They can't Outrider, because then people will riot about the fact that their favourite... Every single time something that most people that I talk to are like, I'm so glad it's gone, goes, you get a whole bunch of people making massive amounts of loud noise. And that then means you've got to look at where it goes. There's a limit to what they can retire. Oh, no, I know, everyone's been through it. This is so annoying. We are just cooked, I'm afraid. But they have to keep a certain degree of appeal to people who've invested, otherwise people will feel like they... I think there is a... Yeah, there is a pool healthy, it's interesting. I'm trying to concentrate on the conversation while the game plays out. I like the reserve system, that in the sense that it gives the freedom to bring cards out and back again. I think if you had infinite money and a very understanding community, 2 things, by the way, that 1939 don't, then what you would do is you would do a new front expansion where a huge pile of cards would be rotated and changed, but with no new cards being added. And you would just do a mass rebalance. But the community would just riot. And they'd lose money. Because you can't... That's a whole different question. I can't even answer that. I have long since just Poland, home of many decent cards. Yeah, but Totalpan, again, you're talking about a physical card game. The comparison is null and void. Even the digital implementation is a digital implementation of a physical game. They're not making their money on... You can't make money the same way. People will buy a physical product when you retire an old one, but if you run a digital product where you rotate everything they bought already, they just go play a different digital game, because they just have to hit download. There's no physical investment. like the way Magic the Gathering works brilliantly for a physical card game because it has an inbuilt, or worked, I should say, it has an inbuilt redundancy. But you can't do that successfully with a digital card game. At least nobody I've seen has ever successfully done it with a digital card game where they've said, right, every 3 months you will have to spend $50-$60 on cards if you want to play the game. Most people in this community. Magic the Gathering Online is just Magic the Gathering, but online. So it follows exactly the same rules, except that you can play older formats by picking up digital packs of cards. There's no actual difference in the rule sets and the rotation, except that you access cards through online progression. Like Magic the Gathering Online / Magic the Gathering Arena is not Wizards' money-making part of Magic the Gathering. Because the only way it makes money, it does make money, but it only makes money in the sense that it has some very expensive ways to get an advantage in game quickly. It's the same as any other digital game, but the core rules, the core set, everything around it in Magic the Gathering, the Arena, the last time I played it, is identical to the physical game. It's just in digital format. I think Magic the Gathering is best, I've said this so many times over the years, the one game you should not reference when talking about any small Magic, like digital or collectible card game. You should never reference Magic the Gathering because it lives in a whole different place. Because Magic the Gathering was the first collectible card game. It was the first on the market. It's been developed by one of the smartest human beings from the point of view of design I've ever come across in my life, in Richard Garfield, who's gone on to design a whole bunch of other stuff. And it sits completely separately. ASMR, I will grab you this deck code, because that is a slightly different deck. That was the one I was previously playing. Yeah, basically, there's no point... Because Magic the Gathering digitally is not its own entity, it's just a part of Magic the Gathering, which is a giant physical card game, which I wouldn't compare any other physical card game to either, by the way, because Magic the Gathering is immense in a way that other games just... That's this deck list, by the way, that just aren't. It's not... It's like comparing any average basketball player... physical... Like, digital Magic the Gathering wasn't until the 2000s. I started playing physical Magic the Gathering in the 1993-ish? When was Magic the Gathering MTG first release? When did I start playing? August 1993. The physical game came out, when the internet wasn't really a thing. It wasn't until the 2000s that we got Magic the Gathering Online, which was actually a much simpler browser-based game that I think you can still play. And then... Yes, I am indeed a dinosaur, but it's nice to see that Totalpan also was around for it. But yeah, I was around for the birth of CCGs. And yeah, it's... The thing is, from a design point of view, also, Magic's... Cards is so weird to talk about from a... 90s was a good time to be alive. Just not a good time for fashion, if you were me. my fashion sense in the 90s wasn't great. What was I looking at? Ah, yes. So Leo was asking, do you think involving more players in a game is a good idea for the game? I think it depends on the player and how you involve them. If you mean as in player-led design, in my experience, it's a terrible idea because most players don't actually know anything about card game design. Because card game design is way, way more boring than you think it is, because it mostly boils down to mathematics. Yeah, like Magic the Gathering, when it first when it first came out, Magic the Gathering was just a game that you played on your kitchen table with your mates and you altered the rules whenever you wanted. Then they started hosting competitive events. Then we started getting tournaments. Then we started getting the Pro Tour, which was a whole different experience. I'm absolutely blessed that I have had that experience both as a player and as a judge. But it was just an extraordinary thing to live through, was the growth of MTG in comparison to other card games. Like nothing I've come across since with I think as close as I have seen since was the initial release buzz around Flesh and Blood when they released their first set. And that was because a lot of very disenfranchised Magic the Gathering players at a competitive level were very, very excited to see a really tiny, hyper-balanced game coming onto the market that was competitive focused. But it was an interesting experience. That's actually, since it was mentioned, I don't really play meta decks on stream, which is true. We'll go and play one of the meta decks on stream while we're chatting so that I can vaguely avoid concentrating. That's also, at the end of this, we'll also finish the giveaway. So make sure that you are in for that, because I'll give away... Actually, I think I'll give away a couple of packs to whoever wins this one. But yeah, I mean, everyone was born at different times and had different experiences. It's just that if you're a card gaming kind of person, being from my generation definitely helped, because you got to live through the whole initial experience. You got to experience as James was kind enough to point out when we were doing a video. I've been playing card games for longer than most of the cards community on average has been alive. Oh, we're trying this. Still think it's suboptimal. Sure. I'm lucky enough to know people who've been in all sorts of tabletop gaming since it started, whether it's card games, tabletop RPGs, all of that stuff. It's a fun experience. Sure. Could dig, but I'd rather... But I am definitely... old in a gaming sense. But yeah, I mean, I think the closest thing you'll get to, I guess, a healthier comparison is something like Gwent. But even then, I don't think it compares. I'm either cooked or they're hoping to draw. We'll find out which in a minute. Depends on whether they've got it. So they do have it. Have I seen this? Is there a Cyberpunk card game? I wasn't aware that the Cyberpunk RP had been, IP had been, Oh, the physical one. Yes, I am vaguely aware of it. We'll go through the motions in the hope that they don't have a large enough order, but I suspect that they're just going to play a 8 cost or 7 cost order, and it'll be enough. 14. Interesting. Well, that was just rude. So, you're dead. You're both dead. We'll go drawing, and then if all else fails, next turn we can second front our baby boy. Unless, of course, they pull Bismarck, at which point we just lose. But that's, you know, life. And this is one of the reasons that I don't play a lot of meta decks at the moment. They're all very tedious to play. We'll run out another one, just to see if we can actually get one of the wins, because then I might actually have a clip to use if I ever talk about this deck in a video, although I don't know whether I ever will. There's not much to say on it. But yeah, no, if you're looking for, it's again digital games, things everyone's looking for digital games, which I'm less good at recommending. I can recommend loads of excellent physical card games that you can pick up really cheaply because you can play lots of older classic games that are well worth playing. I have something like, what are they, 3,500? I must have close to 10,000 physical cards in boxes. Can you just keep group? Probably not. I'd rather find second front. I mean, Bismarck is still used a lot at the minute, but note that it's primarily used a lot at the moment. Bit heretic. I don't know about that. This build is one that I got from someone who was playing it in the top 20. But yeah, Bismarck's just burn. Like, Bismarck will always be better when burn is in vogue and has value. Total Pan, that will still be the older deck, but I will share this list if people want it. In fact, it's probably, if it's not, it will eventually be in there, because I've reactivated my digital deck box where I tend to store interesting decks. Just play the block. Henschel's good to see. So we've got Turpits to slow you down. Hey, Danny's. Get yourself into the giveaway, because I'll give out a couple of packs at the end of this game. This has actually turned out to be a fairly relaxing way to spend an evening. How do I want to do this? So, Otsu's easy, we can just trade it out and survive. So, we just, so we route you, trade out the Otsu, kill whatever you're about to drop on the board. Okay. So, you're going to draw 2. I could put you to, what, 5. Bounce 1 back would be 6. That only takes you to 8, so we can't make you overdraw. So we won't worry about that. Well, if you're drawing like mad, let's make sure you can't do anything with it, I guess. We're not in any rush. Did consider just drawing through my deck, but I don't currently need to. I mean, possibly. I'm interested to find out. I assume that it has to be something that's trying for... Okay. That's spicy. I kind of like it. So, whatever you're trying to do, you need bodies for. So let's assume otherwise. Won't take out the bomber if you're dropping it, so if you're dropping a buff, we'd have to counter it. I think we're better off just digging for our own tools. Not defending depth. Right, so let's see. There's a couple of things you could do here that would be entertaining. Yorktown gives you a big set of bodies that then if you can buff in theory, like if you could drop the gets +1 whatever whenever it attacks HQ, that would be pretty effective. Okay, so we're just going to drop yet more aircraft. Then presumably Yamamoto. Wait for it. Oh! Okay. That's kind of insane. Oh, fair enough. I'll make sure I add this later. Thank you for letting me know, though, because I'm still re-updating it. Yeah, I can take a look. I have a feeling it's going to be incredibly inconsistent, but it certainly works well for high roll. Indeed. Not to mention any of the heal that is actually in this deck. I'm assuming this is just... Japan, US. Okay, I thought for a moment I was going to have to deal with yet another one of those humans. Right, so we'll have a look at the deck that we just played against and do a giveaway. Assuming I have space. More deck slots when. Yeah, so it's just... It's not really ramp, it's just got a couple of bits of ramp in there. J-Doob, thank you so much. Soccer... Double Burning Sun. Yeah, this is just... No Tony, though. Where's Tony? If you're going to do this, why do you not have Tony? Like, you're swinging for the big OTK turns. Tony feels mostly sad. That's where he's meant to live. Meanwhile, Core! There you go. Get you some packs. Let's shoot some packs to Core. No. Yes. There you go. They should be in your DMs, Core. Buffs is really quite good at the minute. Yeah, Core's a really new player by comparison to most, believe it or not. Core, like me, came from other games and has incredible foundational skills, which is why I roped him into the SOE content, because of his knowledge base, not because of his cards pedigree. But Core doesn't even have a complete collection yet. Although I assume he's getting closer, slowly but surely. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, occasionally I really wish there was a way for me to use these as, like, prizes that I can give people, because they're just pointless. And this is after I burned through most of mine to craft all of the... Oh god, this is nothing compared to where I was. I emptied it out for the most part by crafting all of the rotated cards just to get my collection to 100%. This is what happens when you play a lot, and if you stream and play a lot, it just happens. You should see J Kings. Or Maudis, for that matter. Or Red Suns. There's the collections, they just keep growing and growing and growing and growing. It's the same as, like, I burned out ludicrous amounts of gold on... is there a bonus for streaming? Nope. We don't get anything for streaming apart from the ability to give stuff to you. I have had... a lot of my support came, so streamer, yeah, it just plays a lot. Also, bear in mind internal testing. So if you're part of internal testing, you will usually get the top tier pre-order of whatever the expansion is, because we're not paid to test, because Cards like 1939 can't afford paid testers, which is a shame, because paid testing would be very, very good for the game, but professional testers are not cheap. Yes, Danny's, I am indeed. Well, but I don't know whether you'd call it commentating. I have been asked to host the event, which I assume means I will also commentate. But I am indeed hosting the World Championships, not this weekend, but next. At least on the Western team. I'm obviously not hosting the Chinese broadcast. that's... Person whose name I've forgotten, apologies if you catch this video, because we've been introduced to that team. Thank you. I was a little surprised to be asked, but very privileged. And any paid work that comes my way is appreciated. It's always useful to get actual media work, which has been good. My Chinese is terrible. When I was still working for a tea and coffee company, I could just about get by with things like good morning and thank you and stuff like that, but my Chinese is terrible. It's really, really bad. I have, for whatever reason, even when I was at my best, struggled with Asian languages. So in my earlier life, I was something of a polyglot for languages. So I spent a lot of time learning different... Let's go back to mommy. I spent a lot of time learning different languages for different reasons in my life, but most of those were European. But I learned a little Japanese when I was training in martial arts. And then I picked up some Chinese and bits like that, but only little phrases, when I started working for companies that had a lot of Chinese. Because basically I make a living as a communicator, if I get into an industry where I am likely to see someone from a particular area or cultural background, I'll do my best to at least learn to say good morning and thank you and stuff in their language. Because you learn very quickly in communications that you can get a long way by just making the effort. Because a lot of people don't even bother at all. Which, when you think about it, if you're going into someone else's house, is incredibly rude. It's going into someone else's house and assuming they will speak your language is tremendously rude. So I just did it. Unfortunately, almost all of my linguistic skills have been hit by the damage to my brain. So I muddle up phrases, words, and different languages really badly at the minute. Even making the effort, like, I used to regularly travel to France, and just making the effort meant that a lot of the time I didn't pay full price for anything, because they appreciate the fact that you're at least trying. It also saved my ass considerably when I was in Quebec, because the Quebecois do not particularly appreciate it when you don't make the effort to speak French. But no, France is it's a fascinating culture that I got. So I was technically raised bilingual, because my grandmother was part French. Not that I can speak the language. Yeah, you have to speak it well enough that they will pay attention to you. Like, I'm lucky enough that, as I say, I was raised bilingual, so I could speak it well enough that they would actually appreciate the effort rather than just be like, can you stop? Because you're destroying our language. So 1, 3. So we're spending 4, and we don't have a handy 1 cost, which is really annoying. Yeah, German I was never able to get down particularly well. I could just about get by from day to day, but not very effectively. No, I suppose the languages I've spoken most comfortably are French because, well, life, and then Italian because coffee. Uh, sure. So we just need to go a little bit wide, but we can do that. But I've always said that if you want to get into communication or business, one of the most important things you can do to try and open doors is to make the effort to at least try to speak another language. Yeah, I mean, it's also so it's weird, particularly in France. It's if you make an effort, they will often quite politely speak to your language, speak to you in your language, particularly English, if they speak it better than you speak their language. But they still appreciate the fact that you at least tried. It's when you just don't bother and point at things and shout loudly that they start thinking you're being an arsehole. Because you're being an arsehole. Don't even Brexit and I did not get on. I don't do politics live, but I think it was very public that I stood very heavily against Brexit, and I still think it was a terrible idea. Let's see if we can do. Let's do another giveaway after this one as well, because I need to clear out my box before we get into the new year. Yeah, I have a feeling most people having spent like, hey, Jetta, most people having spent any time listening to me can probably predict that I was. We've only played 2 games so far, but I mean, I'm not going to lie. Actually, Air is not bad at the moment. There are a couple of things to shake out, but it is fast enough to have a good run. But there are a couple of really crap matchups. And if you can't go fast enough, it gets a little bit worse. Right. We could pin you. But that seems tremendously inefficient, given that I can just... Well, no, because then I can... Yeah, then I can get the advantage next turn. This is better tempo-wise. It helps if it comes naturally. I was very, very lucky pre-brain injuries. That languages came, kind of like mathematics, came very easily to me. That's a lot of draw. Extra casts is good. It's funny. There's certain cultures that have like multiple intrinsic languages, and others that are much more focused. Kind of always wanted to go to Switzerland for that reason. And plus, I just want to visit Switzerland, but it's very expensive. I don't like it, because I'm going to have to play the fiat under rate to make this work efficiently, and that really annoys me, but I kind of have no option. Which is very, very irritating. No, we don't need to worry about that yet. Most complicated language I've ever come across in my life that I wanted to try and learn because I thought, hey, it'd be fun, is Inuit. Which is the various Inuit languages and their different phraseologies are incredibly complicated to follow. I thought it'd be easy. It's really not. Sendai regiment in this economy. So we can hit Sendai and just end it. Native Canadian peoples. The effectively Canada's native population. Who are called the Inuit. I guess we just tidy up. So, you're only going to get one card, which I don't mind. And I don't really want you pushing into the front line now. You can just trade badly, I think, because we've got a Braider that I want space for. Yeah. Yes, effectively. Although it's not the best way to refer to those people nowadays. Native American is but they're effectively the same logic, but further north in Canada. Sure. I mean, in a very real sense, they're actual Canadians, or at least but yeah, they're correct. The appropriate name is the Inuit. Some parts thereof, I think, is correct. Yes, it's very weird as you go far enough north. But fascinating language. Very focused on practicality. Draw last like pro. I was taught that by the best in the world. Oh, we're certainly giving it a go. I feel slightly bad. I think so. The majority of its root is still connected to some Native American languages, but I'd actually have to go digging because they have a bunch of separate roots as well, and it's quite hard to trace, or it was the last time I looked into it. Not really much for the history of languages. There's a friend of mine you'd love to meet if you're into the history of languages who knows a hell of a lot more about it, although primarily Nordic languages. Best advice in the world: surround yourself with incredibly smart people and then just steal interesting knowledge for them. It'll make you look cool. Speaking of looking cool, Ahmed the Wisest! You have wisely been victorious. I suspect Greenland is going to be a substantial impact. I'm glad you approve. There's one. And there is 2. I hope they contain something good, and then I've got enough left for one more stream through Christmas, which is always nice, so we can close that window down. So we're done with giveaways for the day, which is nice. Get back to playing some games. Hey, Django! Yeah, I was just running a couple of slightly bigger giveaways. I wanted to give 5 packs away in this stream, just because I'm very behind with a bunch of my giveaways, because unsurprisingly I've not been streaming that much because I've been getting used to being in a new space and reorganizing said space, which I should probably take some photos and videos of when it's finished, because it's starting to look nice. I've got a nice gigantic totemic me on the wall ahead of me. Effectively, yeah. So since my marriage ended, there's been, like, obviously a change in the way that my care process and all of that works, which has meant that I've needed to have the house adjusted a bit. And then there are a few things in the background at the moment that might need that I might mean that I actually am picking up some more media and connective related work, which means I need a proper office rather than the cluttered pile of storage that it had been previously. So my support team here have been good enough to help me redecorate and remodel quite significantly. Because I'm not allowed to do things like climb ladders and stuff anymore without supervision, so having people around, and they've been able to deal with that while I've been dealing with a lot of the financial stuff in the background, because I'm not gonna lie, it's been one hell of a year. Yeah, I think we'll just drop a matchy. But it does mean hopefully I might be able to start the new year differently, which would be good. If nothing else, I'll be able to start the new year with a little bit of a financial jump thanks to casting worlds, which is always good. It means that I get to continue doing something I enjoy for money, which is never a bad thing. But yeah, there's just been a lot going on, and I needed to make the space more comfortable. Next on the list of things is getting enough money saved up to get a couple of decent sound panels installed in here to deaden the sound. So it's rather echoey in here for me. Hopefully not for you, because my microphone should be filtering that out. But it's very echoey in this room at the moment. And yeah, air's doing okay. Why do I have email, and who's it from? I think that the mic is definitely filtering it out. It's more for my own comfort than for it's more for my own comfort than for anyone else's. Because the mic should be filtering it out, because I'm fortunate enough to have a decent microphone. No, there's a balance to be struck as well, which I'm always very aware of. As I say, it's more about the way it sounds to me, because talking in an echoey house when you live alone tends to feel kind of weird and uncomfortable. But it will also deaden down when I start getting more stuff in here, because the room actually has only got a few bare bones bits of furniture in it so far. So I'm not necessarily certain that I'll need them, and meanwhile they've been replaced by the artwork that was visible for those of you who were here when I was standing earlier, but I'm now in a sitting position. I'm also glad to hear that the motor on my desk is actually quiet. I was not convinced it would be. This is going to be... Yes, so my wife left earlier this year. I think we go this way round. Thank you. I'm not gonna. It was a mutual thing. It wasn't big and dramatic. The more dramatic part of it was dealing with my healthcare. The healthcare system in this country, for all of its occasional positivity, suffers from being very, very prone to assuming that family and loved ones will do everything for free, and then not quite knowing how to cope when people don't have nearby family and loved ones. But I've been very fortunate to get a team that are able to look after me. Oh, it would have been nice if we'd gotten pound, but we can pin you, so that'll work. Do we go on a little drawing push? What can we do? 8. But then we'd be... We could get the fiat down and do 8, which seems like a reasonable trade. Yeah, it's face. Pin and face. Just burn it down. Another Schutzen. That shuts down the damage a bit, which is fine. Sure. For a change, draw first. Cats, excellent. Nope, no 2s, so we're out of range, which is good. Sure. So got 7 to face. Can still drop the matchy. Which should put us in reach. Because capitulation's a turn away. Double crossfire's not going to cut it. Henschel is a little frustrating. Well, one short... No, wait. So... 5... No, we can only do 6. So what we need is Cass. No, but we can get another matchy. Which means we can trade the Henschel safely. Pound would also have done it, yeah. And then if we just remove you... You come down at 3, so we're safe. There's the capitulation, but, you know, you're either going to have it or not. So, if we pin you... It's just a waiting game. Oh yeah, we did. Crossfire was pretty much guaranteed. Why I didn't deploy either of the Braider. Ooh, hello, Mustang. So, 5-9. So, Braider comes down. Yep. Mustang to face. Salamander? Wow. We've got all the tools. Alright. When Braider forces the trade, but is it actually worth it? No. 5. What are the odds that you can do straight 12? Let's find out. $18 cards. So you can do 7. You won't. So that means that you're not holding. So what are you going to drop? Yagged Bomber. Okay. Oh, this is going to get close. Need to find an out, and I'm not sure we have one that clears effectively. Never mind. No, you are not wrong, we really don't. Not when they land. It's as close as we're gonna get. Still do not believe that duplication should be on a standard card. Hill I will comfortably die on. It's just too good for a standard card. No, it needs to be. I've said openly before that I don't think that effect should be on anything that isn't an elite card. In the same way that I don't have a belief that the repetition effect on the 106th should exist on anything other than an elite card. It would be, so it's important to note that they don't return with Blitz. It's the timing of the return, which is actually important from a design point of view. Basically, the card needs a rework, in my opinion. This is a relatively standard opening. Yeah, so again, it's the timing. The specific timing of the card is less than ideal, but then there's a whole set of conversations to be had about the intent of the card, which are being had. I can say that much. It's the conversations are being had. But any change would need time to be considered, then tested, then implemented. And as I say, the deck does not have a win rate that I can say out loud, that the deck does not have a win rate that rates an emergency patch. We're discussing things all the time. Internal testing does a lot more discussing, I think, than people realise. Depending on... Now, obviously, I'm limited on how much I can say about how the process works, but what I can say is I, for example, monitor cards once they land as well, and so do other people, and look at different decks. No, so they don't. So I can openly say from my own point of view, I did not catch the Group Bretagne combo in testing Second Front. It just did not come onto my radar because it was not the way that I was testing the card. No, absolutely. Again, I am of the opinion that I have two different statements. The first, it's the difference between a change and an emergency patch, if that makes sense. Hey, Coop. Yeah, it is the difference. So an emergency patch is something that's only going to happen if a deck has a meta warping, like a win rate that is legitimately meta destroying or meta warping, like Commandos did. And like the 106th did. At that point, absolutely an emergency patch will happen. I'm just going to make you trade it. Because I can drop a Fiat and another Matchy. But yeah, just like the 106th, there's sometimes things drop that are actually problematic, and like internal data shows that there's a proactive problem, at which point an emergency patch will be discussed. Whereas normally when we're talking about patching something, we're talking further ahead once we've seen how it interacts with the meta, which is why something like Second Front would almost certainly be on the list to be looked at. I am of the personal opinion, note the personal part, I'm of the personal opinion that Second Front needs to change. Because of the effect. Oh, interesting. I've honestly not been paying that much attention. So Second Front without Bretagne, the thing is the Bretagne interaction is really, really warping. Second Front is still I still think Second Front is too powerful. Not because the effect, hey Dan, is should never be in the game, period, yada yada yada, but because it's on a standard card. I think the issue is if you kept it without a substantive change, it's still 4 extra copies of something else in your deck, and that's problematic. You can do things with ramp. You can do things with 1-2-3s. You could do something with any good elite that you can dupe with it. From Germany, obviously, there are a few specials that you wouldn't necessarily want to be able to effectively have 6 copies of. I think the issue is that I am not a great believer that it is a good idea to have duplication on a standard rarity card. But I am one voice among many. Just run face. I think we can probably damage faster than you can heal. Maybe. Yeah, I completely agree. I don't like Hell on Wheels is elite in the same way as the 106th issue. One of my comments on it is the only card that we've had with a similar effect that's ever been in the game was an elite. Oh, that was a good draw. Thank you, Monty. I don't think that duplicate effect needs to be on a non-elite card, but that's just my opinion. Moves 1, 2... Not enough. Buff Ulster. Ulster buff when? Well, that was annoying. We'd still have been left on 1 HQ defense, but that's very, very annoying as misplays go. And actually unusual for me on air, but I've not been playing a lot of air lately. If you're in that position... Yeah, Ulster Rifles. Royal Ulster. A card in need of some help. Although they could buff my Spitfire first. I could do something with my Levy. So that's the Ulster. Which is, like... Okay. I think I've seen it on ladder once today. When someone was attempting to just give it a ton of extra defense so that it was like having extra HQ heal. How are we doing elo-wise? I'm not playing. It's 2133 is fine. How's everyone else doing? Hey, C, how you doing? Tweez still climbing. Always remarkable to me the people who are climbing at the moment. And Yet It Moves, having a busy season. That's a name I haven't seen. Oh, Milenic. This was obviously... Always nice to see the names that are floating around. But yeah, turns out air not too bad at this point in time. As you can tell from the video, I was gutted that the Spitfire came back without a change. It's like, why? Well, what did my baby ever do to anyone? She just wants to come back and do something, and she comes back as plain 6/6. Buffs is... I'm still not a fan. You will, if you get on a climb, you'll see a lot. It's one of the I think, buffs, shuffle... Oh, the Spitfire, sorry. Yeah, I've not seen any one player. I haven't. Honestly, even I haven't tried playing it. Yeah, you'll see buffs, everyone will see plenty of. So Legions, buffs, shuffle, and France burn, probably the best decks in the game at the minute. Don't mind the morale damage, because if we don't find a way to answer the buffs, we're just dead. I mean, I don't know that the Frontier change is... That's a different issue. He just built a different deck. the timing of that effect I will endlessly hate. It's fine on something like Lay Force, which is incredibly slow. It's substantially less fine on something as fast as buffs. Right. How do I want to do this? Obviously, we burn out buffs. Then we can... yeah. So we burn out buffs. Goodbye. It certainly doesn't help. Kangaroo Transport it's a shame because Kangaroo Transport's actually a really interesting card design. Whee! But tactical withdrawal, if you've got the credits, is huge. Which we're about to see. Oh no, we're not. I was expecting tactical withdrawal. That's fine. Okay. Pretty much, yeah. Okay, so you go in here. So you then come down. Which is good, because... yeah, we trade there. Okay. That's legit. Can afford to draw. There it is. Sometimes, just sometimes, the universe is kind. Then other times they have 5 credits and the Blitz Fighter. Nope. Okay. Yeah, okay. So it's this, 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 and goodbye. Get some sleep. I'm about to head off anyway. Thank you as ever, Leo, for being here. Always a pleasure to chat to people. Let's see where we finish up. Yeah, 2050. Elo's not terrible. Right. Have a good night. Right, let's see what's occurring in the world. No one is on my radar. Nope. You will. Hopefully, people will see me much more regularly coming forward. As ever, take care of yourselves, be good humans, and I'll catch you next time I'm streaming, which might be over the weekend, more likely to be next week, and if nothing else, come catch me on the 20th and 21st for the World Championships. Thank you all, as always.